Hey, how's it going, guys? It's Nate here, and welcome to another episode of what is by far and away the oldest series on this channel. Back after a few weeks to celebrate the incredible expansiveness of Skyrim. It was over 8 years ago that the Elder Scrolls V was released, but even after all that time, there are still an incredible amount of little things, clever Easter eggs, and sneaky references that continue to surprise players to this day. So today, we'll be taking a look at some more of the best, as we dive right into yet another 10 tiny details you may still have missed, in the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. Part 56, and if that number is correct, I checked this time. Starting off, Skyrim is home to a small number of Orcish strongholds. Small, largely autonomous, and exclusively Orc settlements, scattered across the province. Skyrim's various Jarls and Governors mostly leave the strongholds alone, and the Orcs there keep to themselves in return. There are exactly 4 different Orcish strongholds in Skyrim during the events of the Elder Scrolls V that we can visit. Or are there? You see, there's also an extra, sort of, secret stronghold not many players know about. That's a bit, well, different. Cracked Tusk Keep is marked on our map as a bandit-occupied fortress just west of Falkreath. However, should you ever head into there to clear it out, you might notice that this bandit fort isn't like most of the others. All of its inhabitants are orcs. Literally, all of them. The fort itself contains some clear Oricimer architecture as well. This place is no ordinary bandit camp, it's a stronghold. The only difference being that the folks here are hostile to any who would approach. Most Orcish settlements are quite friendly with the player, or at the very least tolerate your presence. However, the individuals living here clearly abide by a very different philosophy. Next on our list, not everybody in the world can be the Dragonborn, the hero of the Civil War, the Archmage of the College of Winterhold, and the Listener of the Dark Brotherhood, all at once. No. Some people live much more humble existences, and indeed, Skyrim is home to a number of beggars, who oftentimes tend to be big fans of, well, mead. Some of these beggars, particularly the male ones, utilize a specific voice type called Male Drunk 1. If you walk up to any character who has the Male Drunk 1 voice type, and cast a Healing Hand spell on him and restore some of their health, you might get this rather hilarious line of dialogue in response to your efforts. Take a listen.
Hey, my hangover is gone.
Coming in at number 3, Asada Lilaviv is a Redguard father and husband living in Dragonsbridge near Solitude. He's a kind, hard-working family man, taking care of his wife and 2 kids. It seems all is well for him. However, when we ourselves actually speak with Asada, he'll sometimes reveal that he comes from a rather rough background when asked about his past. Apparently, the dude grew up on the streets of Markarth, where he was constantly harassed, attacked, and forced to steal for food. That was the way his life went for many, many years. Until he eventually met an elderly priest who raised enough funds to help Asada escape, and start a new life out here in Dragonsbridge. We've talked a bit before about this man in a previous video. Well, funnily enough, it seems the character may still share a grudge with someone from the city he fled. Back in Markarth, we can meet a Breton miner named Tomlaga. He's a relatively poor man, spending his days working and living in the Warrens, a cave in Markarth where many of the city's undesirables tend to stay. Well, for whatever reason, Tomlaga and Asada are set in the game's files to have a strongly negative disposition towards each other. This is odd, as they never actually interact, like, at all within the game. But if the player kills one of them, you may actually receive a letter from the other, thanking you for doing the deed and rewarding you with a small sum of gold. It's totally unclear why these 2 men hate each other so much. They seem to be about the same age, so maybe when Asada was still a child in the city, he and Tomlaga had some sort of rivalry. Or maybe Tomlaga's jealous that Asada was able to escape and he wasn't. Whatever the tale behind this negative relationship is, only these 2 gentlemen seem to know, but I wish we did too. For our 4th spot, towards the climax of the Dawnguard DLC questline, we will eventually obtain Arielles Shield, a unique, well, shield that has the power to absorb the energy of blocked attacks, and then release it with super powerful dashes. The shield also, of course, boasts a custom model and texture. Strangely, thanks to the power of console commands, we can in fact dig up and spawn in a hidden, unique version of this shield that never appears in normal gameplay. There's a second variant of Arielles Shield that spawns in as an ebony one. It boasts the exact same stats, however lacks the enchantment found on the obtainable version, likely suggesting that this item was merely created as a placeholder for testing purposes, and then was just forgotten about after development. The more you know! Halfway through at number 5, we're journeying deep into the depths of Bleak Falls Barrow, the classic ancient Nordic ruin that serves as many players' first real dungeon experience. Throughout the structure, we can find the skeletal remains of various adventurers who journeyed down here before and were less fortunate than we. Well, one of these curious skeletons that can be found about midway through the dungeon will be spread out lying next to an ore vein, alongside 2 pickaxes. Well, what happened here? Did someone come all the way down here with the intention of mining iron? Surely not. Alas, as one wonderful commenter pointed out, this may be a bit of a subtle reference by Bethesda to John Henry, the hero of an American folk story that centered around a tunneling competition between himself and a large digging machine. Notably using 2 pickaxes, Mr. Henry was able to dig out a tunnel faster than the automaton, but collapsed pretty much immediately after his glorious victory and passed away. At least that's how most iterations of this tale tend to go. So, it seems the humorous implications here by Bethesda are that maybe this skeleton is responsible for digging out the entirety of Bleak Falls Barrow's cavern network. Or maybe I've just been making these videos for too long and need to go outside. You be the judge. 6th, Meridius Beacon is probably the most iconic miscellaneous object featured in Skyrim. A weird white round ball that can randomly spawn in just about any container. When we pick it up, we'll be scolded by Meridia, Daedric goddess of light, who will demand we return it to her temple and cleanse said structure of some deviants currently inside.
A new hand touches the beacon. Take my beacon to the mount above Kilcreath. I will send down a ray of light. Guide this light through my temple and its doors will open.
A new hand touches the beacon is probably one of the most recognizable phrases in Elder Scrolls history at this point, and rightfully so. Now, being a quest item, we are literally never given the opportunity to remove Meridius Beacon from our inventories. It's just not possible. Even in quests that strip us of all of our items, the beacon will remain in our inventories. But, interestingly, Bethesda did still have Meridia's voice actor record special lines of dialogue in case we did somehow drop her sphere from our inventories. It's again impossible for us to do this, so we can never hear these lines without the use of mods or console commands, but nevertheless, here's what Meridia would say if you were ever able to get rid of her big stupid circle.
Can you not hear me? Are your ears full of hate? Do you prefer heedlessness to my luminous glory? Fool! He is perverting my light.
Next, Grelka is a Nord armor merchant living in Riften. She's known for her especially cold and rather rude demeanor. She almost always sounds annoyed when spoken to, be it by the player or some other paying customer. When naming her though, funnily enough, Bethesda seems to have paid attention to the icy personality they gave this clothing saleswoman, as her name, Grelka, when translated from Russian, actually means warm, warmer, or kind. So, a name quite antithetical to the content of her personality. It would seem someone at Bethesda had a bit of fun assigning it to her. Coming in at number 8. Oh, speaking of things that are just utterly hilarious, have you ever read the book Advances in Lockpicking? It's a lockpicking skill book that is absolutely amazing. Most skill books in Skyrim aren't anything special to read, but Advances in Lockpicking is kind of a unicorn in that regard. It was written by a thief, and is clearly marketed for other thieves. It's a rather short read, so honestly I just encourage you to pause the video and take a look. But the text is riddled with these minor punctuation and spelling issues, and there's even a quote towards the end where the author says, quote, "Most thieves can't read. If you can't read, find someone who can and have them read this to you. It will make more sense then." End quote. It's a creative little book that's sure to warrant a chuckle or three. Getting close to the end here at number 9, we're heading on out to Skoldafen, Alduin's fortress in the mountains, that I believe we've talked about for like 3 out of the last 3 videos or something? Wow. Anyway, something you may not have noticed in Skoldafen is that it's home to a small population of dragons. But the dragons here are actually friendly towards the player. They will not attack the Dovahkiin at all unless you fire at them first, however. The technical reason behind this is that the dragons here are assigned to a unique faction called the Skoldafen Dragons faction, which is friendly with the Dovahkiin. The in-game lore reason behind this might be a little bit more interesting though. You see, Odahviing, the dragon we capture at Dragon's Reach who takes us to Skoldafen to chase Alduin in the first place, tells us that many of his fellow Dovahs are beginning to question their leader. And some are wondering if the Dragonborn can truly challenge the firstborn of Akatosh. The suggestion being that maybe these dragons are friendly with the player, not because Alduin told them to or because they have orders to, but because they want to see if you can beat their master. The answer to that question is, of course, a resounding yes. Or, at least, hopefully it is. And finally, last on our list, we're ending this video in Riften. Specifically, at the Bee and Barb Inn, where we can meet Talon J, an Argonian innkeeper. Talon J is one of the very few characters in the game whose dialogue with the player will change depending on your race ever so slightly. Specifically, his exit conversation dialogue. Take a listen.
It's becoming a lost art. Thank you, marsh friend. It's becoming a lost art. Thank you, Landstrider.
Strangely, despite having a similar voice type, pretty much no other male Argonians exhibit this behavior. They will not change their dialogue with you regardless of your gender or character race. However, female Argonians in the city of Windhelm might sometimes, which is weird. Nonetheless, shout out to Talon for being so observant. And with that, we are going to wrap up our 56th installment of 10 tiny details you may still have missed in The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. 560 details in the books. Wowza. Thanks for stopping by, everybody. Which of these Easter eggs, little secrets, or references was your favorite? And what tiny details do you know of that I've yet to cover? Leave a comment down below. As always, like ratings are very much appreciated. Again, thanks for watching, and I hope to catch you all in my next video. Peace out, everyone.